Thank you so much for joining us this morning for another one in our series of Wednesday webinars with Louis Latour Agencies. And today we are spending some minutes in the company of Guy and Sophie from Vidal Fleury. I never know how to pronounce this. Is it Vidal Fleury? Vidal Fleury?
Vidal Fleury.
Vidal Fleury. Said so lovely. Beautiful French accent. So Vidal Fleury, today we are in the Rhone. So Guy is in charge of the winemaking, Sophie is in charge of exports. Sophie, if I may pass to you, could you just give us a bit of background and history to Vidal Fleury, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So the winery was established in 1781 and is therefore the oldest winery still in activity in the Rhone Valley. We replanted the vineyards in the 19th century with American roots after the phylloxera crisis. In the 20s, Vidal Fleury became a maison with Etienne Guigal as a maître de chai. So a maison is more than just being a producer and more than just being a négociant. It is both at the same time. So that means that Vidal Fleury is involved in all the steps of the winemaking process. In 1984, Vidal Fleury sold the winery to the Guigal family, which was a very logic step for them, since they were always working together. And what is important is that both wineries run separately. And in 2008, Vidal Fleury Winery set up a new winery with around 9,000 square meter surface to optimize wine aging and bottling.
So it has an incredibly long history, 1781, and as you say, owned by the Guigal family. But what is the style and the philosophy of the winery?
So the style of Vidal Fleury wines are their Rhone Valley wines, which are true to its appellation, with structure, with fruit, and they're focusing on the terroir and élevage, so on the aging. And aging needs stock, needs time, needs space. Therefore, the winery can stock up to 2 to 3 years of production, depending on the wines, either in tanks, in barrels, or in food, which are big barrels.
Yeah, yeah. And this picture shown is the new winery that's built. You're located in Ampuis, is that correct? It's sort of the northern end of the Rhone.
Exactly, it's in the northern part of the Rhone Valley, in the heart of the Côte Rôtie, and very close to Ampuis. And
so from Lyon, we're what, sort of 30 minutes drive, something like that?
40 minutes about, yeah.
Right, okay. And the Vidal Fleury, does it own its own vineyards as well as buying grapes from other growers?
Yes, absolutely. So we source our wines in 3 different ways. The first one is we own our vineyards in the northern part, so in Côte Rôtie and in Condrieu. Then we are buying, the second is we're buying the grapes from wine growers, with whom we are having long-lasting relationships. And the third are wines vinified at the growers' facility with Vidal Fleury's method.
Amazing. So in the Côte Rôtie and Condrieu, where we own our own vineyards, how many hectares? Do you know how many, what the surfaces that we own?
In Côte Rôtie, we are about 30-ish, and Condrieu 15.
But here there is an important point, because especially in the northern Rhone Valley, there is a market of grapes, because a lot of growers doesn't make the transformation from grapes into wine. So from a very long time, there is a market, and we buy, there is no differences in terms of work, in terms of quality between the grapes coming from our own vineyards and the grapes coming from others growers. We know them very well for a long time, and every year we buy to the same growers. And sometimes also we work with our team. We work in the vineyards of others growers. So for me it's very important, and this is the big difference between a négociant or a maison or a grower. A maison can work in 3 different ways: with own grapes, buying grapes, or buying wine. The common point of the 3 ways to work is the responsibility we have and the fact that we are involved in all steps.
Okay, thank you, Guy. Thank you. So I was actually driving up the I always forget what number is it, A7, A8, as I was coming home from France a couple of months ago when we were still allowed to move around. And it took me about 90 minutes, maybe a bit longer, to drive from sort of the exit for Carpentras and the exit for Condrieu. So it impressed on me, considering I was on the motorway. I was doing probably about 130 kilometers an hour, strictly within the speed limit, of course. Just how far it is between the Northern Rhone and the Southern Rhone. You tend to think of a valley as being one area, but actually it's a very long valley. So what are the big differences sort of between the 2 areas, the Northern Rhone? What's specifically the characteristics?
Between north and south, there is around 200 kilometers. And in reality, can you put the map, Sophie? And in reality, there is 2 different areas in terms of vine and style of wine. Southern produce 95% of the volume, with big appellation producing huge volume like Côte du Rhône, Ventoux, but also with some cru, which are very specific area making high quality wine. Northern is from Valence to between Valence and Lyon, is producing only 5% of the volume of the total Rhone Valley, but 100% of those 5% are cru, very specific quality. And next picture, next slide, you can see the big differences between the 2 areas. On the top of the slide, you have the typical terraces in Northern, because in Northern the Rhone is crossing the Massif Central, which is a granitic origin of rock, very hard. So the Rhone Valley is very thin because the soil and the rock is very strong. And we have all the vine, especially in the vineyard we own. For us, it's very important to have the vine planted on terraces, and you can see all the wall we have. We need to build wall, because if there is no wall, the soil go down with the rain. The soil go down at the bottom of the slope.
Yeah.
In Southern, the picture at the bottom of the slide, is no more in Southern Rhone, is no more granitic, it's calcareous. So the Rhone was able to make a very large valley, and it's no more terraces, is gentle slope on clay and calcare. So this is, in terms of soil, this is the main difference, and the differences in the soil make the differences in climates. because as the valley is very thin, you can plant vine close to the Rhone River in Northern because the vine is close to the Rhone, because the Rhone is make cut the highest temperature and cut the lowest temperature. And this is possible because the valley is very thin, so the Rhone can produce a microclimate in the valley. In Southern, the valley is very wide, so the Mistral lands and the terroir is very windy, but the temperature is highest close to the sea. So you don't need to be very close from the Rhone to plant vine. For that reason, this area can produce much more quantity of vine because it's one of the best area adapted for vine. And for that reason, you can find plenty of grape varieties in Southern, and it's very different in Northern because the only red grape variety able to mature in Northern is Syrah.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I went to the Côte Rôtie, which was actually only a couple of years ago, I was amazed. I'd never really seen anything like it. And we can see that in the picture that's behind you, Guy, and also obviously in the picture on the slide, just how steep they are. And to drive around them in the car is quite a challenge because the car almost couldn't cope with the slope. It was so steep. And the trellising of the Syrah on these vineyards, on these terraces, is incredibly unusual. I'd never seen anything like it before. It was one vine trained on two sticks. Is this something that is unique to Côte Rôtie?
Is not unique in Côte Rôtie. Is the traditional way to manage the vine in Northern, because the problem we have in Northern is, or was, because the climate is changing, but is the energy coming from the sun. So in Northern we develop not only Vidal Fleury, but all the growers develop a way to manage the vine with each vine has its own stick. And this is really important because it's the only way to manage the direct contact between sun and vine. There is no a wall of leaves like in Southern. You have plenty of sun in Southern, so you can have a wall of leaves, and the consequence of a wall of leaves is you have all the time one part on the sun and one part in the shadow. In Côte Rôtie, we have to invent the way to have the direct contact between grapes and sun, and we create a very specific condition in Northern because every part in the earth is the earth is turning around the sun, except in Côte Rôtie. In Côte Rôtie, the sun is turning around the vineyards. This is very important for the maturation because as each vine has its alone, the sun wake up in the east and turn around the vine and rise in the west. So every grapes at one moment in the day has a direct contact with the sun, which is very important for heatness, for the humidity, for maturation, etc. So remember, the center of the words is Côte Rôtie.
I shall remember that. Thank you, Guy. And are the Côte Rôtie has a portion of Viognier in it as well? So are these grown separately, or is there a Viognier vineyard and a Syrah vineyard, or are they grown together?
This is another specificity in Côte Rôtie, because we make red wines with white grapes, and the reason the right process to do it is to co-plant the Syrah and the Viognier. So you can produce Côte Rôtie with also a part of Viognier. The maximum we can use is 20%, and it's possible to use it if the Viognier is co-planted and co-fermented. And this is really important, because you can't make, if you make the white with the Viognier and the red with the Syrah, and you blend after, the result is not good. It's not good. You have to put some grapes inside the grapes in the tank during the maceration, inside the Syrah. And it's very important, because in a semi-continental climate, the Syrah in northern produce a lot of acidity and a lot of tannin. The wine are very hard, very horrible when the wine is young. And so you have two options to produce drinkable wine. Or you minimize the extraction in order to have a softer wine, but you lose a lot of components from the terroir and from the grapes. Or you maximize the extraction, knowing that you will have the aging after the maceration to make the wine drinkable, and knowing that you have some Viognier to soften the tannin and to make the tannin less aggressive.
Yeah.
But it's not enough. So we need the Viognier inside the tank, and mixed with the Syrah. And even with the Viognier, my wines, when they are young, are really bad, because too much acidity and too much tannin. For that reason, we need aging in barrels or in food or in tank, because if you extract everything, and this is my philosophy, I need to extract everything I can from the grapes, and I will build the house with those materials during 1, 2, 3 years of aging.
Hence the fact that the new winery is such an incredible tool for you, because you now have the space to be able to keep the wines and age them in the way that you feel benefits them the best.
In average, we have 2 or 3 years of stock, and this is really important to be able to manage the aging only with an idea of quality and style. And even for southern wines, we make aging, and a lot of my friends, that in France, all the winemakers of the competitors are first friends, and they used to say that I make southern wine with northern methods, which is aging.
And the idea of using Viognier, that's just with Côte Rôtie. So if we went down slightly to somewhere like Crozes Hermitage, we wouldn't find the same use of Viognier in Crozes Hermitage. It's specifically the Côte Rôtie that uses the Viognier. Is that correct?
Yes, but it's a Vidal Fleury choice, because in the regulation, I'm not sure for Gros Hermitage, but in the others by regulation, you can use white in white grapes in reds, but in the style of wine we produce, we need the Viognier, the white, only in Côte-Rôtie, because as we produce now we produce 19 different AOC at Vidal Fleury ranch. We need to give specific style of each for each wine, and in Côte-Rôtie is northern of northern, so it's a place where you have very strong tannin and acidity. At the opposite of northern, you have, for example, Cornas. Cornas is a southern exposure circle, and you don't need to use white grapes in the reds. And by regulation, you can't use. But Saint-Joseph, Hermitage, I think Gros, you are able you can use white grapes, but we prefer to make those appellations only with Syrah.
Okay, so Cornas, Saint-Joseph is all part of the northern Rhone. Gros Hermitage differs in another way as well, in the fact that it has am I right in thinking it has a slightly different soil?
It's really an exception. You know that in France we're very simple people in wine, and we like to make a lot of exceptions, and sometimes it's only a marketing point, but in the case of Gros Hermitage is really different, because Gros Hermitage is on the left bank of the Rhone, it's not on the right bank. But you can say that Hermitage and Gros Hermitage are both on the left bank of the Rhone. But Hermitage is, even if it is coming from the left bank of the Rhone, is coming from terraces. Because many years before, the Rhone was on the other side of the hill of Hermitage. And Hermitage was also in the right bank of the Rhone. At that time, there was no vine. Okay. But it's the soil, the Colline Hermitage, and the right bank of the Rhone is granitic terraces. The Gros Hermitage is very different because it's not on granitic soil. It's on slopes, and is sedimental soil in between the Rhone and the Isère. So the soil is deeper, the production, the quantity, the yield is higher, and the Gros Hermitage is really the wine to discover the Rhone, the northern Rhone, because the tannin are softer, the wine are with more fruit, the acidity is less important, is really a wine to discover the difficult and the hard wine from northern.
So it's an entry into the
exactly.
But it's a more approachable one.
It's more approachable in terms of style, in terms of balance, and also in terms of price.
Yeah.
Because as you have a higher yield in the vine, the cost of production is lower, and you can use machine, because in all the others, especially in Côte-Rôtie, you have to do everything by hand. Because even the horse can't work in Côte-Rôtie. The horse can work in Hermitage, but in Côte-Rôtie is impossible. You have to do it by hand.
You have to do it on your hands and knees almost.
It's a lot of sports, very. But we drink a lot of wine, so it's okay.
Take away the pain.
Yeah.
So let's head south a little bit more, and we'll head south towards where there's not so much Syrah and Viognier, and the dominant grape would be what, the Grenache?
Yes, this This is, I'm half from the new world and I come back in the old worlds, that mean France, Spain, and Italy, to make wine really true from the terroir. And as I told you, in Northern, the only grape variety able to mature in red is Syrah. In Southern, the conditions are really, really good for the vine. So you can use plenty of different grape variety. And the traditional blend in Southern is GSM, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, with normally more than 50% of Grenache. But you know that human people are very lazy, and as it's much more easy to make good wines, strong, full-bodied wine with Syrah than with Grenache, the natural trend is to use more and more Syrah. We don't want to adopt this strategy at Vidal Fleury. We like to make a big differences between north and south, also with the grapes. Northern is only Syrah in red, and we like and we work a lot to maintain more than 50% of Grenache in all the appellations we work in Southern. And for example, Gigondas is a very interesting appellation because is an appellation on the Dentelle de Montmirail. On the picture, the first hills you see, this picture is the shoot is made from Kéran, and we are looking to southeast, and you see the Dentelle de Montmirail. In the Dentelle de Montmirail, you have the Gigondas appellation, more in the top of the slope, in between the forest of oak, green oak. And the role of the oak is very important, is to protect the vine against the mistral, the strong wine coming from strong, very dry wind coming from northern. And the forêt with the oak protects the vine, the vineyard against the mistral. And in this condition, we have very good condition for Grenache, heatness and water. And you can, with Grenache, if you have heatness and water, you can produce very, very good wines. The danger is in the yields. If you have a lot of yields in the Grenache, you lose very quickly the characteristic and the body of the wine.
We talked in preparation for this, and we talked quite a lot about the green harvesting, and the idea that cutting off some of the grapes in advance of harvest which is a practice that was sort of quite popular sort of 15, 20 years ago. And you were very definite about the fact that green harvest is not a way to control the yield. You're not a fan. And I thought this was really interesting.
But this is a result of the experience. With some friends, we were the first winemakers using green harvest in the years 1990. And there is a big problem with this, with the green harvest is more you cut grapes during the vegetative period of the vine, more the vine make reserve, and more next year the yields grow. So green harvest is a good practice for just 1 year, or just to one shot just to manage the yields. And it's very important to don't make green harvest. You have to do it after the change of color, the veraison.
Yeah.
If you cut the grapes when the grapes is green, the vine will produce the same quantity with less grapes. So you will do the contrary of what you want to do. You will make softer wine with lack of components.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to do it not when the vine is red, but when after the change and at the beginning really of the maturation. And you have to do it is just one shot. So now I consider that the main question for the vigneron is to manage the yield with the prune, knowing every piece of vineyard and knowing that this piece of vineyard is good to have 2 grapes per vine, this one 4, and etc.
Yeah. So there's always balance.
Because the prune is really the best method to balance the vegetative activity of the vine and the fruity activity of the vine, and to be sustainable, to don't create disequilibre. I don't know how to say
inequality or imbalance.
Yes, to don't create imbalance in a long term. So I use not green harvest. I use harvest before maturation, but only for one shot.
Yeah, and this balance is incredibly, obviously incredibly important in all varieties, but particularly with Grenache, which can be quite light. Yeah. And so you really want that full-bodied flavour, and particularly in a wine like Gigondas. We're looking here at the 2017, which is the current vintage here in the UK. It's one of my favourite wines. So just we're looking here. It's, as you said, a typical blend of Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre.
In our range, you have Grenache, you have Gigondas, you have Queyranne and Châteauneuf-du-Pape, of course, which are really with more than 75% of Grenache. I'm really a fan of Grenache from Southern, which is not the easiest decision, but I don't like easy decision. And it's not the easiest decision because with the changes of climate, we have more and more problem of very high level of alcohol.
Right.
And this is a problem, but we will find a solution.
And what's 2020 been like across the board for the vintage? Has it been a difficult year? We've had COVID as well. How have you managed?
The 2020 years was a too easy year in Northern. We had nothing to do, just harvest, put the grapes in the tank, and go to the siesta or drink a glass of wine. It was more, and in Northern the year will be very good, and don't communicate on the point that the Northern Rhone Valley has a good evolution in terms of quality with the change of climates. I'm sorry, it's not, but it is more and more easier to make very good wines in Northern because we have more and more sun, and the last vintage was more difficult, but we like difficulties. Is what was more difficult in Southern because of the Grenache, because this year the Grenache, the trend of the Grenache was to produce a lot of production, a lot of quantity. And if you have yields more than 40 hectoliters or 45 hectoliters per hectare in Southern, we consider that is not really our quality. So for that reason, it's important for us to be involved in the vineyards every year with the same growers. We work with some growers for more than 20 years. And it's very important because the quality of our wines is very start in the vineyard, managing mainly the charge and the yields. And if you didn't have problem of grêle, how do you say grêle?
Hail.
Yeah, of gel.
So frost.
Of too much humidity in the morning with mildew, and if you manage the yield in the vineyards, the year will be good. Very fruity, softer tannin, and the advantage of the Grenache is to be able to make full-bodied wine, but all the time with a lot of smoothness, very sucrosité is the impression of sugar, but without any residual sugar.
Fruity sweetness. So we've talked a lot about red wines, but we'll move on and now talk about Côte du Rhone, but Côte du Rhone white. And Vidal Fleury is interesting in the fact that very often Côte du Rhone Blanc is a blend of all kinds of white grapes, but for us it's very Viognier dominant.
The Côte du Rhone white is a very important wine for Vidal Fleury. It is our first growth. We more than doubled the production in 4 years.
Wow.
And we took the most difficult choice for the production because we choose to maintain a very high level of Viognier. And the problem of Viognier in Southern is the high production of sugar and the low production of acidity when the Viognier is in hot condition. So another time is important to be involved in the vineyard to maintain to do everything to maintain the freshness. And for that reason, we don't make 100% Viognier. And remember that we are French, and French people like to make a blend of different grape varieties. This is the tradition in France. So we choose to produce our Côte du Rhone white with between 85–90% of Viognier, but we have Clairette for acidity, we have Roussanne for structure, and we have Grenache for fatness. And this is our blend. And I think that Vidal Fleury is perhaps the unique winery making the white Côte du Rhone with a very high percentage of Viognier, with all the characteristics from the Viognier, which has flower flavors, a lot of fatness in the palates. We don't make the malolactic fermentation like in Condrieu. In Condrieu, we are northern, so the vine has enough acidity to be able to make the malolactic fermentation. We are in southern, So without a lot of acidity, so it's not good to make the maltic fermentation.
Okay.
And we have some freshness with other grapes and some specific practice in the winemaking process.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions, we're going to start to wrap up now. But if anyone has any questions, do feel free to put them in the chat, or I can't actually see anybody, so yeah, best to put it in the chat. But just on the point about Viognier, do you, with the Condrieu in the Northern Rhone, do you use oak on the Viognier?
Yes, we use oak, and when it's not 100% oak fermented, it's not 100% oak aged. Isoron is more or less 50-50. And when we ferment in oak, we age in oak. When we ferment in tank, we never age in oak because of problem of oxidation. And after we blend the two different processes, we blend with the idea to make wine with grapes and thyme, and we are not making juice of oak. So for that reason, it's very important to make the fermentation in oak, because the yeast make a transformation of the component from the woods and absorb the flavors of the oak flavors. We like to make wine with grapes.
I've got one question that has come in, which is about a really quite different style, and that's the Muscat de Baume de Venise.
Yeah.
And do you make one every year? This is the sweet style from the southern Rhone.
Yes, is a vin doux naturel made with Muscat à petit grain, in a very specific terroir, which is Baume de Venise, not very windy but very hot. Mm-hmm. And the process is the Muscat petit grain has a lot of flavors. And the idea of this wine is to really have in the wine the flavors from the grapes. And the only solution is to stop the fermentation, because if you go until the end of the fermentation, the yeast transform all the flavors from the grapes. And to stop the fermentation, you don't have a lot of choice. You have sulfur, we don't like.
Right.
We have frost, colds. Mm-hmm. We can use, but it's not possible to stabilize really the must in fermentation with cold treatments. And you have alcohol, because the yeast are like human. When they are drunk, they stop to work. So we at 8 degrees, coming from the fermentation, we jump from 8 to 15.
Right.
And this addition of alcohol stop the fermentation, the yeast fermentation, keeping the flavors from the grapes into the wine. And after, as you understand that the élevage is one of the most important steps in our process, we age the wine, the Muscat Baume de Venise, with residual sugar, like a normal white wine, because it's stable. Yeah. You can age it with yeast. It's not a problem. We don't like to use enzyme, filtration, We like to make wine with grapes and thyme, and the specificity of the style of the Muscat Baume de Venise is to be only with the fruit from the grapes. There is not oxidation. There is not flavors of smoky caramel. The color is the same than a dry white wine, and everything is on the fruit, and the fruits are white flowers and grapefruit, the peel, la peau, the
grapefruit skin.
Yeah, the skin of grapefruit. This is the style, with some bitter in the palate, making the balance with the sugar.
Yeah, we have more questions coming in. One question about the Mistral effect in the Northern Rhone is how is that? Yeah, how does the Mistral work in the Northern Rhone with the slopes, the steepness and the narrowness of the
no Mistral in the north.
No Mistral.
And you can understand why. There is Mistral, but in altitude.
Okay.
But as the vineyards at the valley is very thin, the Mistral can't land. So there is no Mistral.
It's only when the valley opens out.
Yes, but we have a very light, un doux, comment on dit doux?
Soft or gentle.
Soft, gentle wind coming from north, driving the leaves and the grapes. And this is another advantage of the échalas.
Yeah.
As each vine is alone and there is no wall of leaves, the wind can go through the vineyard, through the vine, and dry every leaves, every grapes. It's very good for maturation. So we don't really we have only good consequences in Northern with the Mistral very in the valley, in the thin valley, because it's very soft.
Yeah.
In Southern, it's a problem, because you can, when the vine is at the end of the maturation, you can grow your potential degrees of alcohol of 1 degree in 2 days. So we have to manage really the harvest with the potential rain, but also with the potential Mistral we will have.
Thank you. That's really interesting. And then, so finally, just a chat about the kind of oak and wood and casks you are using. And would you consider using eggs as is the fashion, the winery in other wineries?
We like to make wine with grapes and thyme. If you have thyme and if you have good grapes, you don't need any products. All the product in winemaking is just to go quicker than the natural. If you have time, just go at the rate of the natural. The aging is the only traditional and natural way to stabilize and clarify the wine. You don't need any products. And
I think actually Guy was meaning, you know, the concrete eggs, the egg-shaped fermenters.
I'm sorry, I'm not fan.
No?
I'm not a religious man. Religieux, je ne suis pas religieux. I like the facts. I like the experience. I like the observation. I don't need any guru. Comment on dit guru en anglais? I don't need any. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, I try, but there is no differences. And it's the same with products. If you listen a lot of winemakers, they give all the consultants. Most of the consultants have money because they sell products. So when they give the process, they give the process with a lot of products, but it's not for the wine. It's for the money. I'm sorry. I like to make wine with grapes
and thyme. Excellent.
It's much easier.
I think that's a very firm message from Guy, that the egg fermenter salesman
no.
not be landing at Vidal Fleury anytime soon. Thank you, Guy. That's been a fascinating chat. I've loved talking to you. You know I like the Rhone. It's one of my favourite areas, and we will come and see you again as soon as we can. Thank you, everybody, for joining in the chat today. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Guy and Sophie. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I hope the 2020 wines continue on in their evolution and we can enjoy them all together in a few years' time.
Une meilleure année 2021 qu'une année 2020.
Oh, let's hope so. Thanks a lot, Guy. Thanks a lot, Sophie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.